Hey everybody, welcome back to the Soul Purpose Project. I'm really excited today to interview Carla. Carla, it's so nice to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. So, before we get started, can you please tell us a little about who you are and what you do for work right now and what you do, period?
Okay. Well, I help people become speakers and get out there speaking, teaching, training, facilitating, guiding others with their expertise. And I noticed that what made a big difference in really helping people get into the flow and not being so overcome with obstacles is to get in touch with their soul's purpose and to infuse their message with that and to be really clear with others about in certain translated terms, what their mission, their purpose is on the planet. And I noticed it really magnetized in for people, just the ideal kind of people they were, I think, meant to work with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Cool. So, essentially, would it be a good summary to say that you were a speaker coach and sort of leadership coach? Is that right?
Yeah, speaker, leadership, communication coach. So I help you with your speech. I help you with, what you put in your web bio, what you might put on your social media profile, really putting your soul's, helping you get clear on it, but also then crafting it into a message where people can really get it. And often that's through stories and just really taught it really and having to go through that to deep process yourself. I used to take people on life purpose retreats a long time ago, back in the Yucatan in the 90s. And so after doing that for years, I decided to combine those two, and the combination of them has proved very fruitful for people.
Excellent. So, how would you define the idea of a soul purpose? Like, what does that mean to you when you hear those words?
Well, I think you kind of decide at some soul level you're going to come down into a body and you're going to go after certain goals. You're going to learn certain things and you're going to give back to others in a certain way. And that if you don't get clear on what that is and you don't start living that, I think life gets a bit gnarly. I think people can get, I think their creativity can end up becoming destructivity. And I think it's at the core of things like addictions and health issues and bad relationships and, feeling of, quiet desperation that so many people feel like they have.
Oh, I love that phraseology. Somebody did a quote, something about the majority of people living lives of quiet desperation.
Yeah, that's a famous quote. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, Carla, do you know what your purpose is?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, I don't want to say absolutely just because, there's always more to unfold. But at this point in my life, I feel like I've done so much inner work on purpose that I feel like part of my purpose is to really help people uncover their purpose and communicate it in an effective way and really help people. I also feel to help others do that, like I'm a teacher of teachers. And I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I need to mentor others to do what I've been able to do and get out there more. So I'm really feeling called to that, especially in the last couple of years.
Cool. So, do you think that everybody has a soul purpose?
Oh, yes, I think they do.
All right.
Even
So,
cats and dogs. And
really, that might explain my dog's behavior a little bit. So you mentioned that you've done a lot of internal work to get to where you're at. Can you kind of explain a little bit around like what your process was to get to where you are right now?
Yeah, well, I've done probably a lot of things that many others have done. I've gone on the retreats and I've done, the silent meditations and I've gone into it through voice dialogue work where you talk with your soul, back and forth like you're in a play where I go, Carla, what's my soul purpose? It's soul, colon, and then it would answer me and, and it's, I figured if I asked enough times throughout the years and kept track, it all kept saying the same thing. Usually it always came down to the same thing. And, I did even more mainstream traditional things like what color is your parachute and those kind of processes where you uncover what you're most meant to do. I actually started my whole career at 19 years old in a career center, helping people find their career. And at the same time, I started doing a lot of sort of spiritual work and meditation, and I thought, those two intersect somewhere. So I think that's why I ended up in the life purpose work.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's almost like an evolution of that sort of what color is your parachute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so do you think in terms of your purpose that you're living it like in your day-to-day life? And if so, how do you know?
That's a really good question. And I think I go into it for a while and then I notice I get off track, which I think happens to a lot of people. Because sometimes what I hear that I'm supposed to do, there's this other part of me, other parts of my inner committee, do you know what I'm talking about with the inner committee, that kind of go, what? No way, I'm not going to do that, or that just doesn't look like it's going to make me any money, or that just sounds like people are going to think I'm a loony, or they're going to go against me, or all the stuff I've built up, I'm not going to throw that away to go on that path. And I go, well, I'll keep thinking about that life purpose, and then months go by and I kind of notice health issues coming up and this kind of sadness inside, and I realize, okay, I guess I have to listen to that and go back to it. So I find it's quite a process of getting all my inner committee on board and really, having them see the visionary part of me, supporting that visionary soul purpose part of me instead of fighting it, getting us all on the same page.
All right. Yeah.
Right.
Not easy. So this is always a sort of a hot button issue. What impact do you feel that there is on one's finances regarding your soul's purpose work? Like, do we have to choose between money and passion, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's always a good question. Well, sometimes I think that you just have to get a little more creative. I find sometimes I just need to think outside the box and drop a lot of my beliefs about what is possible money-wise. Because sometimes, I've made money doing things that I would never in a million years think that would bring me income. And then other times I've gone down these roads thinking, I'm going to go after this thing that's for sure going to make me money, but it's off purpose, and so it doesn't, or it crashes and burns. So I do think there's a way, and I think that's part of our soul purpose. I do think that there's this whole thing where you can only do one or the other, but at some point I think you need to merge the part of you that's in this physical world, and you have bills to pay and you have to live your purpose, and maybe that's part of your purpose, is to see how to combine them, and not sort of go off on this beautiful tangent of soul purpose and not eat. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's part of that game we've signed up for, to find out how to do it. And maybe you spend your day doing something that makes money in the real world, but you infuse it with your soul purpose. And I've worked in organizations where, people's job is to, be a corrections officer, or to be in an accounting firm, and maybe a job you think, oh, how, that would be like my dream job. But if you're in touch with your soul purpose and you put it into everything you do, then you can feel alive and on purpose, even though you're not, painting in France,
Yeah, great. So what's a decision or action that you made in the past that got you on course that you would make again?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, starting my own business. I started my own business at 29 years old, and it was very scary to do that. And even though it was really kind of hard in the first few years, I'm very glad I did, because I've spent my whole life mostly working for myself, and it's given me a ton of freedoms and creativity that I wouldn't otherwise have.
Great answer. So Did you feel overall encouraged or discouraged by your community in finding your own purpose?
I felt encouraged. I actually come from a family where my mother was very much into all that kind of stuff, so that was useful. So I was encouraged. She was taking me to things like the Aquarian Conspiracy Conference when I was 16 years old, and doing my tarot cards to help me understand the archetypes guiding my life. So in that way, family-wise, I felt very supported. I didn't feel supported in terms of maybe more mainstream people in my community thinking, that's a little out there. But, in the end, that didn't stop me.
So what has been hard? What are some of the challenges that you've encountered transitioning into your soul's purpose? And what obstacles did you face?
I would say it's some inner committee members that don't want me to do that. And I don't even know if they're totally inner committee members or just some programming, you pick up from society that says, you're not supposed to be happy, you're not supposed to be fulfilled, you're supposed to be, that Protestant work ethic that I grew up in. It's just like, unless you're struggling and you're pushing and you're striving and you're just barely making it, that somehow you're not a good person, that somehow if you were happy and fulfilled, that you must be doing something illegal or corrupt.
It's very pervasive.
It is.
Okay, so how do you deal with tough times on an emotional level? Like, what are some of your coping skills that have really been helpful?
Well, I need to put aside time every day to be in touch with my soul, or whatever you want to call it, and almost treat it like start to dialogue with it, just like you would a good friend, right? If you put time and energy into a good friend, or a relationship, a romantic relationship, it grows and it thrives. But if you ignore it, it tends to kind of work against you. So I feel like I even notice times in my life when my life gets better, it's I'm putting in that dedicated time. And sometimes I'll put hours in every day to just dialoguing with that part of me, or going for a walk in the woods to just be silent and be with nature and be with that. And other times, I get too busy and I go, I really don't have time for that, or the resistance comes up that I don't want to listen to that because it can be scary, sometimes hearing what your soul wants you to do. So I come up with really good reasons why I just don't have time for that. And then my life starts to go down, right? Health, energy, vitality, happiness, it all goes down. So it's that constant sort of, dedication. It's quite a commitment. And I understand why people have trouble with it, because I certainly do. And I have compassion for myself and my clients as we try to continue to direct our focus back to that.
Gotcha. So what's different about you now that you're living in your purpose versus when you weren't?
My health is better. I do notice a difference. I used to have a lot of allergies and a lot of tension in my body, and so that kind of is less. It's not gone, but it's less. And I find that I'm happier. And I find that I'm more at peace with things when things go wrong or they go off or there's pressure of deadlines. I don't get so freaked out by them.
Okay, so how then has your impact on the world changed since you've been living in your purpose?
Well, I do notice that if I include the purpose work in, if I'm doing it for myself and then I'm helping others, everything gets better. I find my clients feel this deep sense of the work that we did was really, really valuable, right? And they refer me more, I get more clients, I see their lives change in bigger, more powerful ways. So, and some people are more open to going on that journey than others, but those who've really gone on that journey their whole lives have changed. And that's, of course, very satisfying for me to feel like I'm making a difference for people that way.
Gotcha. So, another sort of hot button issue. Can you explain your perspective on the relationship between living in your soul's purpose and work? Can they be separate?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think they're meant to be separate. I think that you could, as I said, I think that you could do any job and bring your purpose into it, and I think that's what we're all meant to do. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky as to figure out how, and I've certainly been in a position to help people find that meshing of the two. And you have to really think outside the box, and you have to really spend that time connected to yourself so that the weird politics of your work environment and the pressures and the stresses don't eat away at you.
Gotcha. All right. So last and final question, Carla. What would you say are the ingredients for success, or a prescription you would give people who are on this journey trying to find their soul's purpose?
Yeah. I think, for kind of like what I said before, I think if you could just put aside some dedicated time every day, which many people do, into some sort of contemplative practice that works for you. Some people it's journaling, some people it's walking in nature, some people it's meditation, it's just that time where you push aside that sort of willful, I call it this yang energy of creating and out there, but just that time of quiet and integration. There's things going on at the unconscious. And just let yourself go in there to mulch, as I say. Turn the soil over, go into the winter of your being, and let yourself integrate and hear from and have quiet enough time, that you can hear those deeper, truer voices. And I think you do have to push aside. It's like going to the gym, right? You have to build the muscle and continue to build the muscle. You can't just sort of do it once, do a weekend workshop and think you're done.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. And even if it were like 15 minutes every day, it would be good. And sometimes that's all I do. I go, I got 15 minutes. I'll just sit here 10 minutes. That's all I'll do. And I think it's better than skipping it.
Gotcha. Well, great words of wisdom, Carla. Thank you so much for your insight and for sharing, some of your journey with us, as well as your words of wisdom on what it's like for you, personally with your own purpose, as well as working with your clients.
Yes, you're welcome.
In terms of getting in touch with you, anybody watching this video who might want to learn more about, what you can do for them or how to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, they can go to artistryofchange.com. I work with the change artists of the world here to bring their soul purpose into creative and meaningful and also lucrative professions or your own business. And I also have a free webinar called Speak Your Purpose, and it's at speakyourpurpose.com. And if people want to go there and get a taste test of what I do, you'll go through a little process of learning your purpose and then seeing how you could actually put that into like a LinkedIn bio or into a story that you would tell when you're talking to your prospects.
Fantastic. That's great, Carla. Well, thank you again so much. So appreciated.
You're welcome. Thanks, Laurel.